I am your neighbor. I am the teller at your bank, the guy making your sandwich, the girl behind the counter at your pharmacy. I am no one. I go through my day, moment by moment, going through the motions, watching endless faces, buy endless items, making endless change, endless courtesies, endless greetings. But then I see you. The soft way your hair curls against your neck. The delicate way your fingers gently run together as you decide whether you want paper or plastic. I imagine how incredible they would feel moving against my skin. I brush against you as I hand you your change, flushing red as my body is flooded with electricity from the touch. You smile at me as you go on your way, but that is not enough. You have made me feel like someone. The days move by in a snail's pace, melting one into another until I can see you again. Each of the faces blurring in front of me, irrelevant if they are not yours. Weeks go by before I see you again, entering the store just as I have left. I wait in the parking lot, body on fire. Do I go in and speak to you? Do I touch you? Do I... It's too late. You're leaving the store. I have no time. I have no choice. I get in my car and follow yours. I stay a few cars back. I don't want to scare you. I don't want you to think I'm creepy. I just want to know more about you. I want to talk to you again. You pull up to an apartment building, and I wait outside as you go in. I see the light turn on. Perfect. I know which one's yours. I'm jittery, my leg shaking with excitement, overcome with the desire to know you, to matter to you. I leave. I don't want you to be uncomfortable. I want to be someone to you. I come back on all my nights off. I watch from my car as you enter your place. I pray you come back out so that I can see you for just a few more seconds. And then you do. His car pulls in and you come out to greet him. You hug him tight and my bones crack. You wrap your arms around him, squeezing the air from my lungs. You kiss him and pull the trigger, firing a bunker through my heart, killing me. I drive home, speeding, not caring of the dangers. I tear apart my apartment, imagining every splintering piece of furniture is my heart, every shattering of glass, the bond that we shared. I am no one. I am seething with rage. I drive back to your apartment to get answers. I need to know why you've done this to us. I slam through your door screaming. He comes out of the bedroom in his shorts, not ready for the bat in my hand. I break him down, striking again and again until the wood splinters, shattering against him. He lies still. You walk out in your pajamas. You scream when you see him, and I am overcome with anger. You were supposed to care about me. He is nothing. He doesn't matter now. He's gone. I grab a knife from the counter. I need to show you I am someone. I grab you before you can reach the phone. We fall to the ground, but I have my weight on top of you. You're fighting, but I'm stronger. I shove the knife deep into you, hurting you in the same way you hurt me by betraying me with him. And in that moment, as the hot, pouring blood wraps around your soft, delicate fingers, trying to clutch my knife, I look at your eyes. In that horrified look in your eyes, I see panic, fear, and pain, all directed at me. In that moment, to you, I am all there is. I am everything. Zoe was a pale and frail girl with long, unkempt, platinum blonde hair. I guess if you didn't know any better, you could easily mistake her for a wandering corpse, a soulless ghoul. But you do know better, don't you? That stuff isn't real. Zombies, The Walking Dead, animated corpses, it's all kind of worn out by now, isn't it? It's been done to death. No pun intended. But Zoe didn't know better. In fact, she was wholeheartedly convinced that she was dead. I don't even know when it first started. I guess shortly after the accident? I mean, it was a brutal trauma, and we were lucky to get out of that car wreck alive. Joe with some minor fractures, me with a concussion. But Zoe climbed out of there unscathed. Not a single mark on her. Sure, I get it. PTSD and all that. Climbing out of a flaming wreck without so much as a scratch on you can really mess with your head. But she clearly wasn't dead, you know? She had a pulse for one, a beating heart, a steady, healthy body temperature. She could walk, talk, and think. All signs of being alive, yet none of them enough to convince Zoe. The thing is, she didn't really tell anyone but me. But you could notice something was different about her. Still, people didn't seem to care. No one even bothered talking to her. Like, really talk, you know? I always found that strange. It was like she ceased to exist after the accident. Like the Zoe I knew died in that car. I am dead, she told me one day. I never made it out of that car. Not really. Not all of me. I didn't know how to respond to that. How do you respond to something like that? When a trauma is rooted that deep, there's not much you can do, you know? There's nothing you can say that'll somehow make things right. She stared at me with those haunting azure eyes, a somber expression frozen on her face. No, you're not, I smiled. You're very much alive, Zoe. I knew my words did nothing, meant nothing. Maybe she was right. Maybe something died in her that day. You know, metaphorically speaking. Like something inside her broke or something. I am, she replied. I am sure of it. She sat there just staring at me, like I was the only thing in existence. People wandered by slowly, casting brief, puzzled glances in our direction. They all had the same somber expression, though, a sad, frozen visage. How do you know? I asked. How can you be so sure? She sighed as she gently caressed the beautifully adorned headstone. To my utter confusion, I realized it had my name on it. How else can you explain it? She said. How else can I see you? It's one of the worst places to put a window, in the bathroom. Now, you might be wondering why that might be. There are windows in bathrooms all the time, aren't there? But you see, in my bathroom, our shower and bathtub are combined, and our wonderful window sits right there in that space, above the bathtub and under the shower. Now, if the window was frosted glass, there wouldn't be a problem, but our window was clear as they could come. Basically, just a normal window. And since we couldn't put a curtain over it, because duh, shower water, my parents settled on a sticker that simulated the effects of frosted glass. But still, there were those tiny slivers of clear glass on the edges that you could see through. And the fact that the window faced a parking lot and another apartment building did not help at all. And growing up, that window was something that haunted my nightmares. I suppose it didn't help that I had a morbid fascination with horror stories, even though I couldn't sleep for days after reading one. I used to shower as quickly as I could, imagining a tall, dark figure pressing its face against the window pane, or a decrepit old woman banging on the glass, or a gross old man living in the apartment building, peering through the slivers of clear glass. Of course, I tried to calm myself after such imaginations. The tiny slivers of clear glass couldn't show anything. The window was 14 stories above the ground, so unless it was a climbing master, our bathroom was unreachable from the outside. And besides, even if the mystery creature was a climber, the window could barely fit a child through it. The monsters of my imagination wouldn't be able to fit into the tiny space. And besides, there were plenty of other bigger windows in my apartment to worry about. Time passed, but that window never left my mind. I think it was the fact that I had nothing to do as I shampooed besides stare out that window into the darkness beyond the sticker and imagine twisted tales to entertain myself with. As I grew up and realized that monsters aren't real, I comforted myself with the idea that anything threatening me through the window was impossible. If my twiggy little body couldn't get through that space, what can, you know? Now, I can't help but scoff at my younger self's fears. As I sit in the bathtub, staring at the locked door, and listening to the gurgling screams of my mother, and the raging bellows of the man who broke into my home, my mind is again filled with the thoughts of that bathroom window. A window too small for me to fit through, 14 stories above the ground. I have this psychological condition. I guess most would call it a mental disorder, but I just find the word disorder to be shrouded in negativity and misinformation. And to be fair, it really doesn't bother me that much. A condition, on the other hand, people seem to treat with respect and understanding, like it isn't my fault, like I was just born with this thing. Nothing else to it, you know? They call it the David Reyes disorder, or DRD for short. Incidentally, my name is David Reyes, and I'm also the only known person ever diagnosed with the condition. Isn't that strange? I, for one, always found that very peculiar. I was diagnosed at age 4, after spending weeks and months at a special hospital, then months and years at a very isolated psychiatric facility. My parents would visit, of course, but mostly I spent my days alone with the doctors. Living with the condition has been a challenge, I'll admit it, but it isn't as bad as people would have you think. In the beginning, it was scary and traumatizing because I was too young to understand it. But as I've grown older, I've learned to come to terms with it. The human mind is marvelous. There really isn't anything it can't overcome, given enough time. My first episode happened in daycare when I was 3. I remember it vaguely as a truly horrible experience, but I can't seem to recollect the exact details anymore. I guess I was just too young. I scared the living hell out of everyone, I'll tell you that much, because I was never in daycare again. The experience I get nowadays is something between sleep paralysis and extreme psychosis. I can't move, like I'm locked inside my body. And I get these incredibly detailed, nightmarish visions, oftentimes accompanied by auditory hallucinations. Usually, I will see someone brutally murdered, like ripped to shreds, or exploding, or gruesomely eviscerated, or, well, you get the idea. Real gory stuff. Then, suddenly, it will all be over, and the doctors will help me get to sleep, and I'll wake up fine and dandy the next morning. It's the strangest thing, though. Some days, the doctors will visit me real early in the morning, like before the sun comes up, and they'll have this guy with them, some office man dressed in a fine suit and tie. Sometimes I recognize him, sometimes not. Anyway, they sit down, and this guy shows me a picture of a person. They'll tell me to focus on the person, like it's someone I should have known but I've forgotten about or something. And I will focus as hard as I possibly can, because I want to get better. But let me tell you, sometimes I remember the person too well, and I'll witness their horrible death in my episodes. And the doctors will smile and tell me how good I've been. Don't you think that's strange? Birds are incredibly smart. Did you know that? Especially crows. They can catch on to things faster than most animals. They make mistakes too, though, just like you and I. Moving to a new town can be stressful, but I needed a change in scenery and to get away from my crappy ex. The country sounded quiet, and my parents owned a vacation home upstate. With little thought into what I was going to do, I quit my job and packed my measly belongings to stay upstate until I could figure out my next plan. The first few days were easy, quiet. I loved the trees and grass and hills you don't get to see in the city. The animals could be loud, but I enjoyed listening to the howling wolves and chattering squirrels. They broke up the silence that I wasn't used to. On my 6th day in the house, I was making popcorn to eat during the movie I planned to watch on the porch. I brought the bowl and my laptop and pulled a blanket around my body. It was only 2 minutes later that the smell of freshly made popcorn attracted a crow with the blackest feathers I've ever seen. The crow stood and watched me for a moment, his beady eyes examining me and my snack, as if deciding a bum rush on the bowl would be successful. Before the bird could decide what to do, I grabbed a small handful of it and tossed it on the ground near him. Without hesitation, he started pecking at the popcorn. In no time at all, the ground was clean again. The crow looked at the bowl, and I couldn't help but laugh at its greediness. Another handful was tossed, and the crow happily devoured it before taking off and flying towards the woods near my house. I didn't think much of it until the crow came back with a shiny penny. It placed it at my feet and then took a few bouncing steps backwards. I'd heard of crows bringing gifts to humans they like, but I didn't think I'd get to see it firsthand. After a moment, the crow took off again, and I pocketed the penny. I figured it might have been good luck. The movie finished, and I closed my laptop to go inside. Every time I decided to watch a movie on the porch, the same crow would come and get its portion of whatever snack I was eating. In return, it would bring me a small token of gratitude. shiny coins, tiny toys lost and forgotten by children. It even brought me a $5 bill at one point. I gave him a little extra the day after that. It made me laugh seeing the crow paying for its snack. Soon enough, the other crows caught on. When I'd come outside, the porch would be littered with little gifts. It became a habit to throw some food outside for my crows, then pick up all the surprises afterward. One day, almost 6 weeks into living here, I tossed the usual handful of birdseed out of my window. It was easier than making popcorn each time. They all ate it happily, and I waited until they were gone to get my loot for the day. Amongst the normal gifts of pennies and candy wrappers was a single molar. It sat with the rest of the small items, and I figured someone had simply lost a tooth. Until the crows started bringing more. Soon, my porch was littered with human teeth, the bones decaying at various rates. I stopped throwing out birdseed in hopes they stopped bringing them. But every day, the crows deposit their wares and then stare into the window, waiting for their payment. I don't know where they're getting so many teeth, but I really want them to stop. I've never done anything like this before. Never sat down with the man opposite in this capacity. The anticipation is real and tangible. He keeps looking over at me, and I don't know how to react. Should I smile? Would a smile be too forward? Should I just look back, meet his gaze? Then what? Where does it go from there? Should I introduce myself? Maybe he is waiting for me to break the ice? Should I do something with my hands? They're just sitting here limp and useless. My legs are aching. Maybe I should shift my position. Would that be too weird? Do people do that? I really shouldn't. It might give off the wrong signal. Do I do anything with my eyebrows, though? That's something I've definitely seen people do. Like raise one, maybe? Or both? Oh no. He's still looking at me. I don't know what to do. Hello, he says. Oh no. How do I respond to that? Can I reply with a simple hello back? Or should I elaborate? Maybe I don't need to say anything? Maybe it would be enough to just smile or wave my hand or gesture somehow. I have to do something. I can't just sit here staring at him. That would just be too weird. A combination of a facial expression, bodily pose, and an alluring greeting would be perfect. But if I mess it up, it could quite possibly have the opposite effect of that I want. Hi, I reply. That didn't seem right at all. I can tell by the way the expression on his face changes that I screwed up somehow, that I misread the signals. Damn it. Why do I always do this? Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I instinctively react to these social cues? Do you want something to drink? He asks. I was dreading this question. I am quite thirsty, but the information that could be extracted from the essence of the answer is theoretically limitless. Hot or cold? Lukewarm? Size? Shape? Color? Fizzled? People can't really fathom how much a single choice like this can reveal about a person. I want him to think I am interesting, sophisticated, mysterious, elegant. A person who has seen it all, yet still willing to explore, grow, and evolve. Someone that can challenge and question, capable of both receiving and giving criticism. Water, I say. Was that right? It's neutral, healthy even, but could it be defined as boring, dull, lacking in imagination? Did I just blow it? Was this it? I can't move. I'm physically unable to move. It's just too much to process, too much to read into. I desperately tried to identify the expression on his face. It seemed serious, yet intrigued. Cold, yet inquisitive. Maybe there's still hope? So, he says, let's talk about the bodies we found in your freezer. Thank you, spooks and spookettes, for joining me for this reading. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would really appreciate a like on this video. If you think you have a story for me to read, I will leave links below where you can send it. Also, look forward to reading any comments left down below. If you'd like to join me for more, there's always a subscribe and notification buttons that would really make my day. If you're not ready to subscribe just yet, I hope you will check out my other videos. Thanks again, and wishing you a sweet night.